Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 6. Chapter name is absorption and marginal costing. And what you are going to do, first look the volume of this question, original shape. And you can see that we need to make income statement according to marginal costing and income statement according to absorption costing. Why do you have two answers? Because there are two time periods. First for 6 months, second for 6 months. So there is an income statement depending upon first 6 months and second 6 months. So we will have two income statement for margin, two income statement for absorption costing. Here per unit cost is mentioned and some variable fixed costs are also mentioned downward, and in this way we will complete our questions. For the first step, what we will do is to make our performa or format for absorption costing. This would be our first step, and we are going to make income statement according to absorption costing. And as you know, the first element which would be used in income statement is your sales, and you need to subtract your cost of sales, which would include fixed and variable both. You will start making cost of sales by putting opening stock here. Then you will add your production cost, subtract your closing stock over here. In this way, you will complete your cost of sales. After which you will see if there is any under or over applied FOH. Completion of this will result to get our gross profit. We will calculate our gross profit by subtracting our cost of sales. From sales we will be able to get our gross profit. Then we will subtract our operating cost, which would include selling, admin or marketing expenses. This way finally our operating cost would be completed and we will be able to calculate our net profit. It's not net margin, net profit would be calculated, and here gross profit would be calculated. So this is our statement. You have used this statement for first question, and right now we are solving sixth question, and same statements we are using. For here you will write units and then per unit, small amount would be written over here and larger amount would be put over here. This is your outer column, this is inner column. Now let's go back to the question and start what is said. Under absorption costing, you will take a per unit cost which would have both fixed and variable cost. Look, this is the key difference between absorption and margin costing. 69 is total per unit cost, and you can see it has fixed and variable. Under absorption costing, we take a per unit cost which includes both fixed and variable. So we have got our per unit cost 69, and you have idea when you will write 69 in front of opening stock, same per unit cost will be used for production and closing stock. So first matter has been sorted out. We have seen this per unit cost, and it was having two elements, variable cost and fixed cost. So fixed cost has arrived over here 20, 69 is total cost, remaining everything would be variable cost. Right now we were associated with total cost. Total per unit cost was given in the question. Okay, let's read out next thing. Normal output is 60,000. It would be useful when we will be calculating under or over applied production. So keep it in mind, we can produce 16,000 number of units and 16,000 number of units per annum. This is more important factor, 16,000 per annum, while we are making statement for 6 months. So we will be following it. Costs related to selling and administrative expenses are 20% of sale value, is variable, fixed are 180,000 again per annum. As you can see under our performa, we need to have selling and admin expenses separately. And what is written over here? Selling, distribution and administrative expenses are given over here. So there are two. Fixed selling and admin are 180,000 per annum. Now let me know if 180,000 is cost of selling and admin for whole year per annum for 1 year. So how much cost would be for 6 months? As you know, if this cost was 180,000 for whole year, you want to know for amount for 6 months. It's simple thing, you can divide it by 2. Please focus upon here. 180,000 was selling and admin cost for full year, but you are related with only 6 months. So you will divide it by 2 to calculate and to have the amount of selling expenses for the 6 months. Now second expense is given 20% of sale value. So what you will do, you will calculate at here your sale price would arrive and you will calculate 20%. We will see later on. By the way, we should put over here so that we remember that administrative expenses are required to be written. Let's go back to the question and see what else is given. The only variance is volume variance. Okay, there are no units of finished goods. Okay, that doesn't make any difference to our question. Fixed overhead is evenly throughout the year and we had done the same. For whole year it was 180,000. Since it was even, so for 6 months it was half of total amount for 6 months. So we have already done it. Nothing is different. And then they are saying selling price is 140. Yes, this is useful for us. 140 is your selling price. Let's go back. And what is next after this 140? They are saying for each 6 months, this is your detail. Our first period we are related with, and we will follow these numbers. Produced units are 8500. So here produced units would be mentioned 8500. Since we are related with first time period, and for first time period it has been said that produced units are 8500, sold units 7000. So you can put 7000 as your sold units. Now let me know opening stock. You have an idea, this is your first time period, or under this first time period you will not be having any of your opening stock, so you can call it 0, and closing stock would not be given in the book and you will decide whether you have closing stock or not. 8500 units were produced while you were able to sell only 7000. Total unit you have produced 8500, 7000 units are sold. How many left? 1500 are still unsold. So this would be units for your closing stock. Now we will see if there is any under over fixed production. In question it has been said that 1600 units per annum. Per annum mean 1 year. 1600 units are produced for 1 year. For 6 months that would be half, means 8000. And how many units we have produced? 8500. I'm letting you know by writing over here for full year 16,000 units were to be produced. For 6 months you will divide it by 2 in this way. Your standard production was 8000 while we have produced 8500 units. It means we overly produced 500 units. Understood? 8000 is your standard for 6 months. We have produced 8500. Overproduction is 500 units. So we can mention over here less over applied या overproduction, but it is directly associated with fixed cost only. Okay, this per unit cost we need, and we will go and see how much was fixed cost. Per unit fixed cost is mentioned over here 20. So we'll come back and write 20 per unit cost over here. Hopefully you have understood. Should I tell you again? 8,000 for 6 months standard, we have produced 8,500. 500 extra unit we have produced, that means overproduction. And this over or underapplied is associated with fixed cost only. So we have gone to the question and saw that 20 is your per unit fixed cost. Same 20 has been posted. All units completed. Per units are completed. We can calculate the amount. Except this thing is still pending. We need to calculate 20% of sales for admin expenses. Let's calculate our amount of sale by multiplying units and per unit. Units sold 7,000 and you will multiply per unit 140. So we have got amount of sales. Now we will come at inner column and calculate amount for opening stock. Since number of units for opening stock are 0, so it would be 0. Now for production cost, units 8,500 would be multiplied by per unit 69. Production cost. Closing stock, units 1,500, it would be multiplied by per unit cost, which is 69. And we have got closing stock as well. It is over applied. Next is over applied production. Units are 500 and its per unit is 20. So we have over applied production as well. Now 20% of sale is said in our question for administrative expenses. Here 20% of sale value is selling, distribution, admin. Now we can calculate 20%. Why? Because we were waiting for the sale value. So sale value is 9,80,000 and we will calculate its 20%, multiply by 20 and divided by 100. So in this way our fixed cost is also completed. Okay, let's calculate our cost of sale first. Now please focus upon these signs. First thing, opening stock, and then you need to add your production cost. Then you need to subtract your closing stock, and again less because of overproduction, minus 10,000. So in this way total cost of sales has been arrived. We can now calculate our gross profit, which is difference between cost of sales and sales. Amount of sale 98, you will subtract your cost 47. This way gross profit we have calculated, and now we will be able to calculate our net profit. For that we will complete our operating cost section. Two elements are present, 90,000 and 196,000. Operating cost has been completed. We are now able to calculate our net profit, which is difference between operating cost and gross profit. At this stage our gross profit is 507,000 and we need to subtract operating cost 286. In this way we have got our net profit for absorption costing first part. Absorption costing first part 221,000 and we have calculated 221,000. In this way our first part for absorption costing has been completed and we have calculated the answer. Answer is matched. We will go to the second part of question, and for that first we will mention this part as completed. So first part is now completed. There is little ease for me. I will take these headings and will use same headings for making income statement for second period of time. And we will use the same headings except these numbers, since these were associated for first part of our question, so we will erase them. And now we will be focusing upon here second 6 months, where number of units produced are 7,000. So 7,000 would be written in front of production. And next important thing is you have sold your units 8,000. 8,000 would be put in front of sales. In this way we have completed it. Now per unit cost, selling price per unit is 140. So you will put 140 in front of sales. For opening closing costing, since we are following absorption costing, per unit for absorption costing includes both fixed and variable. We have mentioned as well over here. We will go to per unit section. This is the part where per unit is mentioned, and it includes both fixed and variable. Finally, we have got the answer 69. So this will be used as your per unit cost for opening stock, and you do know whatever would be per unit cost for opening will be same for production and closing stock as well. Here we will decide whether if there is any under over applied production, but before that we will see if there is any closing stock. As you know, previous time period we will observe if there is any closing stock, that would be opening stock of the current period. For first time period we have gone over here and saw that there was a closing stock of 1500 units. It would be considered as opening stock of second period. Here we can conclude about closing stock. 1500 units were present at start of the period, then you produce 7000. Total 8500 units you have produced, but you have sold only 8000. Again listen, 1500 was present at start, 7000 you have produced, total 8500 units you were having at your store, but you could sell only 8000. It means out of 8500, 8000 units are sold, so 500 are still in your hand. We have calculated closing stock. It's time to see under over applied production. Since in first part we have already concluded that per annum 1600 units are produced. Normal output 1600. For 6 months it would be 8000. And how many number of units we have produced? 7000. 8000 units standard, and we have produced only 7000. So what it would be? Under production, how much? 1000 units are underproduced. We have under applied our production. Standard was 8000, produced 7000, 1000 units are not produced. It means it is under production, and under production will be added, add under applied, and it is purely associated with fixed cost. So go to the question and see that fixed cost is separately mentioned over here, which is 20. So we will be putting 20 per unit cost of fixed in front of under over applied. Now we will see selling admin expenses. Selling, distribution, administrative expenses are given in two parts. First part is 20% of sales. So you will come over here, we'll just write 20%, as we haven't calculated amount of sales right now, but we will write just to memorize it. And second part of selling, distribution, administrative expenses are here. 180,000 per annum. Again, it is for the full year, and we are related with only 6 months. If 180,000 is full month, for full year it is 180,000. So to calculate for 6 months, what you will do? For full year 180,000, for 6 months, it means its half would be for 6 months. In this way, we have completed our section for operating costs as well. All units are mentioned over here. All per units are also mentioned over here. It means we are now open to calculate our total amounts. For calculation of sale, we will go to the outer column. To calculate sale, we will multiply units into per unit. Unit are 8000 will be multiplied by per unit 140. Amount of sale 112. Okay. Now we'll calculate our opening stock. For that, units would be multiplied by per unit. Units are here 1500 and we will multiply 69 per unit. Opening stock is here. Production cost unit 7000 multiplied by 69 production cost, and now closing stock units 500 and it would be multiplied by 69. We have our closing stock. And then under applied units are 1000 would be multiplied by 20. It means cost of under applied has also been calculated. It's time to calculate our cost of sales. How? Please, you will be focusing upon these signs, add or less. So first is your opening stock, and then you will add sign of plus production, after which you will subtract sign negative what closing stock 34,400 500, and then again you will add under applied production and amount is 20,000. In this way total cost has been calculated. It's time to calculate our gross profit, which is difference between cost of sales and sales. Amount of sale was 112 and you will subtract cost of sale, which is 572. In this way we have got our gross profit. And since amount of sale has been calculated, we are now able to calculate 20% of selling price. Selling price was 112 and you need to calculate its 20%. So multiply by 20 and divided by 100. In this way, first part of selling expenses has been calculated. Second part has already been written. We can now sum up all operating costs. It has two elements 224 and then you will add 90. In this way you have calculated your total operating cost as well. Now time to calculate net profit, which is different between operating cost and gross profit. Amount of gross profit 548. You will subtract operating cost total 314. This way you have calculated your net profit. It is second part of absorption costing. So absorption costing, second part 234000 and we have calculated 234000. In this way, two answers are completed, 221 and 234. 234 and 221. And in other meanings, absorption costing is completed. We will now be focusing upon marginal costing. Again, there will be two income statement for margin costing as we have two different time periods. So for first time period, we will come over here. First time, okay. And here we will make income statement for first time period, and this would be entirely dependent upon marginal costing. So income statement according to marginal costing we will be making over here. How you will start? We are not looking at the question at first stage. We will be making format. First thing first is sales, and then you will subtract your variable cost, and this variable cost would have opening stock, and then you will add production cost and subtract your closing stock. In this way your variable cost would be completed, and beside it, if there is any extra variable expense, we will keep it in mind, extra variable expense. After which we will be able to calculate our contribution margin, which would be the difference between variable and sales. After which we will see if fixed cost is present, and that would be put over here. Finally, we will be able to calculate our net margin, which would be the difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Statement has been completed. We are now free to calculate our income statement. So we'll go back to the question and we'll start and see. Look here, there is very important thing. In marginal costing, we do not take fixed cost at start. So we will exclude it. Total cost is 69 and within which 20 is your fixed cost. I will write over here, as you know, total per unit cost. How do you calculate it? For that, you need to have per unit fixed cost, and then you will add per unit variable cost, with which you will be able to calculate your total per unit cost. So come over here, total was 69. You can write over here, and it has unit fixed cost which is 20. And let's say if we don't know how much is per unit variable cost. Next step is what? Per unit cost is negative over here. You want to take it to the right side. So what will happen? It will turn into plus, and 69 was present already on left. What would be left on right side? Only 20. Here sign is plus, per unit cost plus. Okay, the next step is what? We have taken per unit. Instead of this, let's take this 20 to the opposite side. At opposite side 69 is already present, and what you will do, 20 is added over here. If you will take it to the left side, it would be subtracted, and what would be left on right side? Per unit VC. 69 would be used to subtract 20 from it. So this would be your per unit variable cost. You can directly see over here, total cost was 69, within which 20 was your fixed cost. So what you have done, 69 minus 20, 69 minus 20, remaining everything is variable. So you have calculated your variable cost. In marginal costing, you use only variable cost to calculate contribution margin. So our problem has been sorted out. We have got our per unit cost. 49 would be put over here, and as you know, per unit cost of opening stock would be used for both production and closing stock. Problem sorted out. Now go back to the question and see, for the first part you have produced unit 8500. You can write 8500 in front of production, and sold units are 7000. In front of sale you can put 7000, and you have an idea here. You will write units here, per unit, amount smaller, amount larger. Units have been completed over here. So opening stock for first time period, as you are doing this question for first time period, there would not be any opening stock at the start. Put 0. Now let me know if there is any closing stock. For that, there was nothing at start, but you have produced 8500, 7000 units sold. Out of 8500, if 7000 units are gone and sold, how many number of units would be left? That is 8500. So 8500 was your produced unit, 7000 gone, remaining 1500 would be still in your hand. And now we will see if variable expenses extra are present. Here you can see variable, and although these are selling admin, but this is variable, 20% of sale value. So here you will mention that we are going to calculate 20%, but still amount of sale is not present, so we will wait. Okay, the next thing useful is this selling price. Selling price per unit is 140. Come over here and write down 140 at this stage. Alright, all units are completed, all per units are completed. We will now see where fixed costs are present. So first fixed cost we have seen, this is per annum. for full year, and we are related with 6 months. For if amount 180,000 is for full year, to calculate for 6 months we will divide it by 2. Okay, first fixed cost is here, and total amount for full year was 180,000. To calculate for 6 months we will divide it by 2. In this way first fixed cost has been calculated. But now there is another thing and I need your attention, because you will have to understand it. Here it has been said that variance is a fixed production, this we already know, and fixed overhead expenditure is spent evenly throughout the year. Now this fixed FH we need to calculate. Normal output is 1600. As you know, if you are making 16,000 for full year, for half year it would be 8,000. 16,000 units are produced for full year, 8,000 units are produced for 1 year. So it means fixed cost, this 20 fixed cost would remain fixed for 8,500 or for 7,000. Now we will calculate our fixed portion or fixed cost. For that you will have to be attentive. 8,000 units are produced for 1 year. For single unit, 20 is your fixed cost, which is mentioned over here. Fixed cost is 20. In this way, second fixed cost would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit. Please do understand, this 90,000 was given in the question, and here it was described 180,000 for full year. For half year it would be 90,000, and then there was a fixed cost over here 20, which was associated with normal production or standard production. Standard production was mentioned over here, but it was for full year. For half year 8,000 units and per unit 20. Same you have done over here, 8,000 units for half year and 20 per unit cost. So it means inputs are completed. We are now open to calculate amounts. First we will calculate amount of sale, which is 7,000, and you need to multiply per unit 140. Amount of sale is over here. Second, opening stock, since number of units are 0, so opening stock would be 0. Production cost, units multiplied by per unit. Unit are 8,500, per unit 49. Now closing stock, units are 1500, it would be multiplied by per unit 49. And then we are now able to calculate our extra variable expenses, 20% of sale. Amount of sale is 80,000, and we need to calculate 20%, multiply by 20 divided by 100. In this way variable expenditures are also calculated. We are now free to calculate our contribution margin, which is difference between variable cost and sales. To calculate variable cost, we will follow these signs. So first opening stock, and then you need to add your production cost 416, and next step is to subtract closing stock 73, and extra expense, that means expenses are increasing 196,000. So we have what we have done, opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock plus extra expense. All variable cost as a whole has been calculated. We are free to calculate contribution margin, which is difference between VC and sales. Amount of sale 980, subtract variable cost 539. So we have got our contribution margin. Now we will calculate our fixed cost, which does have two elements, 90,000 and 160,000. Fixed cost is calculated. We will calculate now net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Amount of contribution margin 441. So you will subtract your fixed cost, which is 250,000. In this way your net margin for marginal costing first time, marginal costing first time 191, and we have calculated 191,000. In this way first part of marginal costing has been completed. We can mark it as completed part. And for second part, little bit easy for me, I will take this statement and will use to make income statement marginal costing for second part. Here I will write down the second time period. Okay, since these amounts were calculated for first portion, so we don't need it, we can remove them. For second part, you will come over here. This is your second part or second 6 months period. Produced units are 7,000. Write down in front of production. And then sold unit are 8,000. Put it in front of sales. Then we need to have per unit cost. And as you know, we have already calculated per unit cost because this was total cost including fixed cost. Under marginal costing, we do not need fixed cost, so we have subtracted 20 and got 49. So per unit cost for opening stock would be written as 49, and you know the same cost would be used for production and closing stock. If there is any extra variable expenses, we will write over here. And you can see in first part we have already decided 20% of sale is variable and extra expense. Right now we will just put 20% to memorize it, and then we need to have put fixed cost. For that you will understand this fixed cost per annum 180,000, but we are associated with 6 months. For full year, if it is 180,000, we will divide for half of the year, that means for 6 months, 90,000. And go back, and you do know in first part we have decided this 20 was fixed cost for the standard production. Standard production was also for full year. If 16,000 standard production is for full year, for half year it would be 8,000. So similarly, you will write 8,000 number of units, and per unit fixed cost is mentioned over here 20. So you can put 20 over here, 20, and this 90,000 would be written over here. Okay, all number of units. Okay, nahi, opening stock. No, we are actually doing second time period, so closing stock of first time period. This is your first time, and closing stock is 1500 number of unit. It would be opening stock of current period. Next is to see if there is any closing stock. For that you have to understand 1500 units were present at starting of the period, 7000 number of units you have produced, total 8500 units were produced. Out of 8500, 8000 gone, sold, so remaining 500 units are still in your hand. And per unit selling price is mentioned over here. The selling price is 140. So you can put per unit selling price 140 over here. In this way, all number of units completed, per unit completed, and we are just waiting for the sale price to calculate 20%. Fixed cost is also completed here. We can write second fixed cost, which is how we can calculate units 8,000, and you will be multiplying it with per unit, which is 20. So second fixed cost has also been calculated. This is fixed cost number 2. And how did we calculate it? You have an idea? You can rewind the lecture. Okay. Since all units and per unit are posted, we are open to calculate amounts. Amount of sale would be calculated units multiplied by per unit 140. Amount of sale is over here. We will go to the inner column, calculate opening stock units multiply by per unit 73,500 opening. Now production 7,000 units, per unit 49. its production cost, closing stock 500 units, multiply by per unit 49. So we have got all amounts related to variable cost. One extra variable expense, 20% of sales. Amount of sale is over here. So we will take its 20% multiply by 20 divided by 100. In this way, variable cost is completed. We will sum up, and how we will sum up, we'll focus upon these signs. The very first thing is our opening stock, then we need to add production cost, and then we will subtract closing stock. This is extra expense, so you will add this extra expense of 224,000. In this way, total variable cost has arrived. It's time to calculate our contribution margin. How? Which is difference between your variable cost and sales. Amount of sale is 112, subtract variable cost 61. In this way, your contribution margin has been calculated. Time to sum up your fixed cost having two elements, 90,000 and 160,000. Fixed cost has also been completed. It's time to calculate net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Contribution margin 504, subtract fixed cost, which is 250. In this way, we have calculated our net margin. Marginal costing second period 254. So marginal costing second period 254,000. In this way, all four answers are completed. Second part is completed. We are marking it as it has been done. So there were four answers: 191, 254 for marginal costing, 191 and 254 for marginal costing, and then we have 221 and 234 for absorption. First answer was 221. Here you have calculated that 221, and then we have 234. This is your 234 for your absorption costing net profit. In this way, all four answers are completed, matched, and ultimately our question number, I forgot, question number 6 is completed. But even after spending this much time, if you have any query, any problem, any understanding you want to make again, you are very open to ask your questions through messages, text, or comment. You can directly meet as well. Time for question number 6 is ended. Hopefully we will be meeting again for the solution of any other question. Up till then, please take care of yourself, and I am requesting you to please pray for me as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.